Hey there, welcome to another episode of Eat with Sarah. I'm Sarah, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite books, Eat to Live Cookbook by Dr. Joel Fuhrman. It's inspired by his knowledge book, Eat to Live, which I have also read. I'm reviewing this cookbook because it's one of my favorite cookbooks, and sometimes it's just nice to have a good cookbook that you can go to for inspiration or when you want a special meal and you don't want to do testing. So let's get into the review of this cookbook. So, Eat to Live Cookbook is a cookbook of Nutritarian recipes that are nutrient dense and therefore avoiding disease, reversing disease, losing weight, and maintaining weight. It's just for optimum health. So overall, the Nutritarian principles, if you're not aware of them, it's a lot of vegetables, it's a lot of fruits, it's a lot of legumes, and then he is very liberal with his fats as well, and then he's very selective, Dr. Fuhrman, about his grain. If you want to know more about Nutritarian eating, Eat to Live is a great book to read. It's very informative about the best practices, about how to eat to live for a long and healthy life, but then he also goes over some basic principles in this Eat to Live cookbook. So if you don't want to read Eat to Live, there is an introduction with an introduction to the Nutritarian principles. This is not 100% vegan. This book does have some non-vegan recipes in it. I haven't made any of them, but a lot of them are very high in plant still. Things that I like about this Eat to Live cookbook is that it really speaks to the way that I like to cook and eat. So I'm a person that likes to avoid oil, avoid sugar, and avoid salt, and Dr. Fuhrman really does that. And all of his recipes that I've tried have all been really flavorful without adding salt or oil, or like very, very minimal amounts of oil just for preventing stickage, and then absolutely no refined sugar. So that's what I like. It's gluten-free friendly, soy-free friendly, peanut-free friendly. So if you do have allergies, this book is appropriate for you. I have been all of those things at one point individually. I haven't tried all of the recipes in this cookbook yet, but all of the recipes that I have tried have been pretty good. I have some recipes that I prefer over other recipes, but there has been no recipe yet that I have been disappointed with. I really like it. It has a good amount of variety in the recipes as well. So as someone who likes a lot of fusion food, as someone who likes a lot of variety in their meals, it does have recipes inspired from all over the world. It has recipes inspired from Asia, it has recipes from Latin America, American sort of recipes like burgers, and then African recipes. And then I'll go over some of my favorite recipes. Some of my favorite recipes, so for breakfast, sometimes being a nutritarian can be a little bit difficult for breakfast because you think you need to eat veggies and fruits and that's it. But he has a decent variety of recipes. He has scrambles, he has smoothies, he has juices, but then he also has like berry explosion muffins. That's a recipe by his daughter, Talia Fuhrman. I make a variety of that every morning. I don't use berries, but I use apples and pomegranate where I am right now because berries aren't in season, but apples and pomegranates are in season here in Serbia in the winter time. Another good recipe that I have made and eaten for, well, breakfast and dessert is apple supreme. I am an oatmeal lover. I love oatmeal, and he has a berry nut oatmeal recipe that combines berries and walnuts and then oatmeal into a nice, warm, comforting breakfast. For lunches and dinners, he has a really big variety of recipes, but some of my favorites are the Eggplant Cannelloni with Pine Nut Romesco. That was really good. I also love the Tofu Fillets with mushroom wine sauce, also really good. The mushroom Stroganoff, I remember that was probably one of my favorite recipes. Like, that was really impressive, and I was impressed by the way he used the mushrooms and tahini to make the creamy sauce and the flavorings. It's amazing the combination of flavors that he uses, and he's able to get so much flavor into the recipes without overloading with herbs and spices. and then Channa Saag is a really good one, and then vegetable tagine. So as you've seen, we have recipes from all over the world. The vegetable tagine is something that is common to Morocco. Channa Saag is Indian. Mushroom stroganoff is European. We have tofu fillets with a mushroom wine sauce. That's probably more Italian. And then the eggplant cannelloni is also a little bit more Italian. So we have recipes from all over the world, and he has recipes from America, like burgers, and then he has like chili recipes from the Southwest, and he just incorporates things from all over the world into his cookbook. He doesn't skimp on dessert as well, which I really like. He has a large variety of desserts, and some of those desserts that I have tried are sweet potato peanut cookies, and those were actually surprisingly delicious. I've tried to make sweet potato cookies before and they didn't quite turn out. Cara's apple strudel, very similar to the apple supreme for breakfast. That's really good. I've actually had that for a main meal because it doesn't have any added sugar. It's really good, and I would recommend that as a nice comforting fall or winter dessert. The berry yogurt was really interesting. Not quite like the yogurt, but a lot better than what I expected. Chocolate avocado pudding is somewhat common nowadays, I think, especially for vegans, people who are familiar with the plant-based and vegan and vegetarian movement. So he has a recipe of that. And another thing that I like about this cookbook is that there is an index. So if you're looking for a recipe with a specific ingredient, if you have an ingredient and you want to know how to use it, you can also use this for that as well. Things that are more common in the nutritarian diet are going to be more heavily used than other things like brown rice, because brown rice is not as common in the nutritarian diet as kale, for example. He has quite a few kale recipes, more kale recipes than there are like whole wheat recipes. Overall, I think my impression of the book, they sound super healthy and you're like, this probably isn't going to be as good as the original. But most of the time, maybe I'm just biased because I have been vegan for 8 years, but a lot of the recipes are actually really good and I'm never disappointed. I lower my expectations because, oh, it's nutritarian, it's so healthy, there's so much vegetables and stuff, but then the recipes always exceed my expectations. So it just proves that you can have tons of flavor without sacrificing your health. And some healthy recipes can come off like that, but this healthy recipe book is not like that at all. So now I'm gonna go over the cons. Even though this is one of my favorite cookbooks, there are some detriments to this cookbook. One detriment I sort of see is that some of the recipes just seem too simple, like the broccoli fra diavolo. It's like broccoli, garlic, tomatoes, and then seasoning. And I'm like, I could come up with that myself. Why would I make that? That just seems too easy. And for someone who is used to making up recipes on the fly, it just doesn't seem like a recipe that I would go out of my way to make. Other recipes like that include like Brussels sprouts with orange and walnuts. That's literally exactly what it is. It's like Brussels sprouts, orange, the juice from the orange, walnuts, and that's about it. And then same with the California creamed kale. Even though it seems really good, the California creamed kale, it's like kale, nutritional yeast, and cashews, and that's about it. They're very minimal. And if you like cooking in that way, I think these are some really good ideas, and I would probably try them eventually, but I just haven't gotten around to them because I want to cook the things that are a little bit more upscale or a little bit more challenging for me to make. But these are recipes that are so easy that you really couldn't fail at them. Another con that I see is some of the recipes don't seem heavy enough for a main meal. He places them in the main meal section of the book, but then they don't seem like enough. Like a lot of the recipes that I was talking about before, the broccoli fra diavolo, the Brussels sprouts with orange and walnuts, the California creamed kale, even though there's fat from the California creamed kale and the Brussels sprouts with orange and walnuts, it just doesn't seem like a full meal to me without a grain or a legume. Maybe that's just my limited mindset, but I don't really think of a main meal as a nut and a vegetable. It's a little bit limited, and from my overall knowledge of legumes, they're really nutritious and they're really filling, so I typically either want to include a grain or a legume at a meal if not both. Another con is not a con for me, but it might be a con for some other people. If you want to cook for your family and friends that are not nutritarian, they may actually be a little bit too healthy for your family and friends because they're really heavy in vegetables. And as someone who has a family member who quote unquote does not eat green things, it's not very friendly towards those type of people. So you might have to be creative, you might have to be very selective with the recipes that you cook with, or you might just have to add a little bit of salt or oil or sugar to make the recipe a little bit more appealing to a palate that is not used to a nutritarian lifestyle. After that review, would I recommend this book? I think the obvious answer is yes, I would recommend this book. This is one of my favorite books. It's the only book that has lasted me from moving to several countries around the world. I received this when I was living in the United States, when I was living in California. I brought this book when I moved to Portugal, when I moved to Mexico, when I moved to Argentina, and now when I am in Serbia. I really love the variety that is in here. I love how it fits into my lifestyle. There are really simple recipes. There are really a bit more extravagant recipes, and I love the variety of flavors and ingredients and ethnicities that are expressed in here. It's just a great cookbook, and I would recommend it if you are vegan, vegetarian, or if you're just looking for something to add a little bit of meatless Mondays into your diet. Last but not least, I am so excited to announce my globally inspired vegan culinary tour in Washington, D.C. It's gonna be 4 days packed with eating the best vegan food. We're gonna be eating at the best vegan restaurants. There are gonna be vegan cooking demos, vegan cooking classes. We're gonna be cooking a multi-course vegan meal together, and it's just gonna be so much fun. Vegan food tastings as well. And all of that is gonna be with me, your guide, an 8-year certified vegan chef. I am so excited to share this experience with 10 other people. This is an amazing gift for your vegan foodie loved one this holiday season. You can find more information from the link in the description below, and thanks for watching this video. I hope to see you next time. Bye.